Hi, you're tuned in to Mind Matter with Jannat. Over time, I intend to converse with a group of dynamic individuals across various professions and age groups. The idea is to engage in meaningful conversations centered around an array of topics concerning mental health, with a strong focus on creating an impact. As a student who is off to university next year, the next couple of months are so crucial, especially during the ongoing pandemic. Therefore, I felt that the best person for this interview today is Mr. Punya Vij, a guidance counselor. Thank you for your time today, sir. Could you please give us an introduction of what it is that you do?
Hi, Jannat. I would like to say a hi to the audience as well. So as Jannat introduced rightly, I'm a guidance counselor based in India. I primarily help high school students trying to figure out all the mess in their life, trying to help them figure out what is it that they really want to do in terms of a major at university, where is it that they'd like to study, how do they really put all the jigsaw pieces together to maximize their chances of university admission, etc., etc. So this is what I do for a living, and I know Jannat because I've been her guidance counselor. I'm fortunate to be her guidance counselor, and yeah, I'm trying to make some difference to her aspirations and understanding of her strengths, weaknesses, and college options.
Thank you for that. How has your journey been throughout the pandemic?
Okay, so at the onset of the pandemic, I was perplexed. I didn't know what's happening. Then I started realizing that my travel plans are going to be taking a serious hit. So being in the education industry, advising students on college admissions and universities, at least 3 months of my entire year used to go in just visiting different universities across the world, trying to understand what is it that they really have to offer, and then trying to transmit all my learning across to the students. And that obviously took a hit because the travel industry was almost shut. There were no flights. Everything came to a standstill. So that's something that did make me a little unhappy because I love traveling and I could not do something that I really loved. But I started rewiring myself in this cliched word, which I don't really like to use, but I would like to use again the new normal that the world has now been using over and over again for a year. And but then I started focusing on a lot of positives. I would, in fact, my family would say that I use my house as a guest house. I'm off to work in the morning and back home at night just to have a meal or one night's sleep and again kick off somewhere next morning, all the time trying to be on move. So I really got an excellent opportunity to bond with my family. I mean, I was always close to them, but never spent as much time. I didn't know that I'll have to be locked up in the house with them. So on a funny note, excess of everything is bad. So now I'm really waiting for the pandemic to sort of fizzle out so that I can again start traveling and really optimize the time that I spend traveling or with family. And another thing, I think one challenge was trying to keep everybody in my team motivated and trying to work remotely. So I would say that we always knew what Zoom is before the world sort of got to know what Zoom is, because we've been counseling students all across the world, and a lot of these students would not visit us. So we would still use Zoom and effectively counsel them in whichever part of the world they were in. But thanks to all online tools like Zoom, that we were able to really implement it and make it a part and parcel of our organization's day-to-day functioning modality. And look, I mean, today we are having this session on Zoom, and just like this, I meet my team members very, very regularly on Zoom. And so, yeah, that was a little difficult at the onset, but it again became fine. So as far as my mental health is concerned, I personally don't take, so I'm one of those persons who does not take so much stress. But yes, whenever there are uncertain times, you do feel a little jittery, but the only option one has then is to find solutions. And that's what I did as a person on my personal front as well as my professional front. So I think I'm doing fine. Yeah.
Thank you for that. So now talking about students, and especially during this pandemic, how have students managed to stick to their respective plans, goals during this uncertain time?
Okay, so I think for some students, the pandemic has really been a blessing in disguise. Students who would really struggle trying to take out the worth of the number of hours that a day gives. Everybody wants to activities worth 48 hours, but they only have 24 hours. And a lot of that time would land up going in traveling, commuting, going from home to the school, coming back from school back home, going to one tuition, coming back, going to another tutorial, going to a friend's outing, going for another research project activity, etc., etc. So I would feel really bad for students that they would all the time be on the move. And I think for some of those students, it's really been great because they've tried to do all these activities. A lot of them have not really compromised on things. They've still managed to get external tutorial support. They've still managed to be a part of an external school system, but still sitting at home. So they've saved those 2-3 hours that they would spend on the move, and they've managed to get some additional activities that they earlier did not have access to. I've seen a lot of Instagram stories of my students trying to cook a meal, trying to water their plants and learn more about horticultural aspects, so as to say. So everybody has found some additional activity of interest, or they've got back to something they had stopped in the middle. Yes, for some students, learning has been a challenge. For some students who really thrive in that social system, people who have not stepped out, I think they felt a little morose in the sense that they've not really gotten the opportunity to meet their friends on and off. They've not been able to party the way they would originally. But I think students have also found innovative ways of networking with each other. Things like there was an app called House Party in the middle, which became very famous thanks to all the high school students. They would land up connecting with each other, playing games with each other. There were parties happening on Zoom, etc. So I think students have managed to also find their way around. Specifically in terms of university admissions, I think that this real change was required at some point in time. There was a pressing need for us to move from 100% physical environment to a largely virtual environment. And I think we needed a push like the pandemic to sort of get things in order. So I think now students are very comfortable. A lot of them have been attending online classes for over a year now, those who are there at university, and things are absolutely fine. So I at least, tell all my students that, there's no point just feeling bad about it. You have to move on and you have to carry on with life. Yeah.
As you rightly said, sir, the pandemic has bound us to our gadgets and confined us to our homes. Are there ways in which high schoolers just like me can turn this crisis into an opportunity for professional growth and hedge themselves against the uncertainties?
So absolutely. Gadgets are not just meant to study or to do your homework, or just to do some academic courses. You can use gadgets for a whole lot of things now. I think we've learned this through the pandemic. The first tip I would be, to start upskilling yourself in things that are secondary, but you've really wanted to do, as I was explaining a few minutes ago also, as to what most students have been doing. So like I'm very, very fond of food and desserts. I love cheesecakes. And, on my Instagram, there was just an ad that popped up few months ago saying learn 10 different types of cheesecake, and luckily it was happening on a so I landed up signing for it, and I was surprised to see one student of mine who stays nearby, because I think the person who was organizing it had done some sponsored advertorials on Instagram based on proximity. So I landed up seeing a student of mine who happens to be a neighbor also on that call. And that's when I realized that it's such a great way for even students to bust their stress and use gadgets to learn something, which is not really a part and parcel of their daily life. So start upskilling yourself. I think that's the first tip. Second, put those gadgets away. Gadgets are not the be all and the end all of your life. You might be confined at home, but you have the option of putting that screen away from yourself for a few hours and just spending some quality time with your family. I think that's a tip that I'm giving to my students, that this is a golden opportunity for you to bond with your family, because you're going to be setting off for university. Those of them who are looking at going overseas will be setting for overseas in a few months or years from now, and they'll be gone. So this is really the time they can start bonding with the family so that they cherish those memories when they're away. I would advise you the same. Start doing things with your mom, things that you love doing together, and I'm sure you're going to cherish that once you're at university, Jannat. Third, I tell students to really get this extra time to introspect, because all the time there are lots and lots of people who want to give free advice or paid advice. I mean, I give paid advice, but there are a lot of people who give free advice to students. Do X, do Y, do Z, and the student is all the time getting swayed. So just use this time to think, what is it that you want to do, with your life, what is it that you want to do at university, how can you make real difference to the world. Think global but act local, how at the grassroots level you can really start making a difference to this world by taking actions in a little small way. Being kind to your neighbors, doing something, doing some encouraging activity for somebody else. So just really respect. And fourth, I would advise use the tools on the gadget. So when I say this, I mean the internet, to get yourself onto various networks, social networks, etc. Just expand your network, start considering yourself as a global citizen. You're not confined to the city that you live in and the country that you belong to. You belong to the world at large, and start connecting with people all across, because you really don't need to take a train or a flight to go there and meet that person. You can start that dialogue right away. If you're going to university, get onto your LinkedIn profile. If you don't have one, create one. Create some more social network profiles, start connecting with people at the university where you're going, or if you're still in high school and you're going to be going in a few years from now, start connecting with university admission officers, students at that university, generally people who live in that city or country where you want to be in, so that you can start doing some virtual YouTube tours. Virtual travel is, I think, a big thing. People are getting onto exploring different countries on YouTube and other social media. So just start doing all of that, and use the infinite digital library we have to read as much as you can. And so I think that these are the tips that I would like to say. Don't see this gadget as your enemy. See it as an enabler in your life.
Thank you so much for those valuable tips, sir, especially for those of us who are in my position, or kids who are a few years younger, who are just looking at college applications.
It was my pleasure, Jannat, to be present with you today, and I hope I've been able to inspire some people who might be hearing this discussion out today. And yeah, you can find me on any social network or on the World Wide Web. Feel free to write to me, and I'll be happy to share my 2 cents further with anybody else too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.